We'll get started. So thanks so much to everyone for coming to today's webinar, Disability Step-by-Step, Preparing an Effective Application. My name is Daniela Marastani, and I am PHA's Insurance Program Associate. And as many of you probably know, one of the main goals of the insurance program at PHA is to provide materials to help PH patients, caregivers, and physicians navigate the insurance realm, as it can be very complicated and confusing. So today you're going to hear from two great speakers about how to put your best foot forward in applying for disability benefits. And this webinar is being recorded, so it will be posted to PHA's website under the PHA Classroom after it's over. So I'm very excited to welcome our two presenters. Amy Jackson is the Financial Case Manager and Floor Trainer at the Caring Voice Coalition, where she helps patients find insurance options, and more importantly for this webinar, she helps patients with the disability application process. She has over 3 years of experience working with disability applicants and over 6 years of experience working in the healthcare and health insurance industry. So she's going to be a wonderful resource for this webinar, and she'll be presenting about the basics of disability and how to create a really strong application. Our other presenter is our patient presenter, Charlotte McCabe, who is the support group leader of the Puyallup support group in Washington State, and she has been very active in the PHA community. Through her previous work in the healthcare field, she has helped many people apply for disability benefits, and she successfully applied for benefits herself in 2007. So Charlotte is going to talk more about the personal side of applying, what she learned and what tips she got from going through the application process herself. So now, Amy, I'm going to pass the controls over to you. And once again, if you have muted yourself, just press *7 to unmute before you start speaking. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Daniela, and thank you all to the PH community for having us. I'm excited to represent the Caring Voice Coalition and also to describe and assist with the disability application process. I'm going to give you a brief overview of what we'll be discussing today. I would like to again, I'm excited to provide the basics information to you and hopefully give you some insight into the disability application process. So I will start with what we'll be going through regarding the slides. Again, the topic is disability step-by-step and how to prepare an effective application. The things we will be discussing is the definition of Social Security, Social Security Association's definition of disability, what the difference is between Social Security Disability Insurance, which is also known as SSDI, and Supplemental Security Insurance, which is known as SSI, when to apply, your preparation process, and the actual application process, and what supporting evidence that you'll need when applying. So first, just let me explain that for individuals who are dealing with a chronic illness like pulmonary hypertension, you get to a point where you can no longer work. And so the Social Security disability process allows you to continue the income and insurance that you need. And so that's why it's in place. So to quote Social Security Administration's definition of disability is the inability to engage in any substantial gainful activity by reason of any medically determinable physical or mental impairment which can be expected to result in death, has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. For many people, just briefly, I'll tell you, they say, what is substantial gainful activity? And a brief definition is that it's used to describe a level of work and earnings. So if you have detailed questions about that, I certainly can answer that later on. In broader terms, disability under Social Security is based on one's inability to work. The Social Security Administration considers you disabled if you cannot do work that you've done before, that you cannot adjust to other work because of a medical condition, and the disability has lasted or is expected to last for at least 1 year or to result in death. So to break it down, SSDI, many people ask the question, what is the difference in SSDI and SSI? Well, SSDI is a federal disability insurance program designed for individuals who have worked enough to earn sufficient work credits. SSDI is a payroll tax-funded federal insurance program. Monthly payments are based on the individual's earnings record. SSDI provides monthly cash benefits and Medicare entitlement to those who are determined disabled. Cash benefits begin 5 full months after you have been determined disabled, and Medicare begins 24 months after cash benefits begin. SSI is a combined state and federal financial assistance program which provides monthly payments to individuals who either never worked or have insufficient work credits or their earnings record to qualify for SSDI. Those eligible for SSI may also be automatically eligible for Medicaid benefits. An individual with little or no income receives the maximum benefit amount of roughly $698. That is the maximum amount. Currently, it could be less based on the income. SSI is funded by the U.S. Treasury General Fund. Both SSI and SSDI programs are administered by the Social Security Administration, and the disability criteria is the same for both. It's never too early to begin preparing upon your diagnosis of severe impairment. It's important to think about when, or the possibility of when you will no longer be able to work. If you're still working and you foresee that coming, it's important to think about that time when you first begin experiencing difficulties with activities of daily living. Am I eligible? Have I earned enough work credits? Work credits is a big thing that people ask as far as what does that mean. So just briefly, I'll let you know that Social Security work credits are based on your total yearly wages or self-employment income, and you can earn up to 4 credits each year. The amount needed for credit changes from year to year. In 2012, for example, you earn 1 credit for each $1,130 of wages or self-employment income. When you've earned a total of $4,520, you've earned your 4 credits for the year. The number of work credits you need to qualify for disability benefits depends on your age, when you become disabled, and when you become disabled. Generally, you need 40 credits, 20 of which you've earned in the last 10 years, ending with the year in which you became disabled. I know that can sound a little complicated, so again, if you have questions or specific questions about that, we certainly can answer that at the end. Am I within SSI income resource limitations? So again, to be eligible for SSI, you don't have to have the work credit requirements, but they do look at your income and resources. So that's something that you'd have to take into consideration. But I will reiterate for both, the criteria to be declared disabled is the same. Am I still working? It is recommended that patients no longer be working when you do apply, and you need to take into consideration what restrictions have already been placed on you. Am I disabled as defined by the Social Security Administration? Maintain a diary. Log your good days, your bad days. Diaries are always important, even from the moment that you first become diagnosed. Even if you feel like you can continue to work, it's still important to keep a diary of what you can do right now and continue to keep that diary because it will become important in the application process. Even your good days, your bad days, the things that you do at work and the things that you do at home. Maintain a diary of all your medical visits and what happened at each of those medical visits. Treating physicians. the names, numbers, and addresses of all of the positions that you see, and testing reports, keeping copies of those tests or any reports, and the medications that you're taking. Effects on your activities of daily living, such as shopping, cooking, cleaning, personal hygiene, caring for children, pets. What could you do before but now have trouble doing, such as hobbies and social activities. These are all going to become important when you go to apply for disability, because they're going to send you, or a part of the disability application process is a disability report, and it's going to ask you specifics about things that you no longer can do. How much can you lift? And then after you actually file, they're going to send you additional reports, which are going to ask you more questions about your daily living. What can you do that you couldn't do before? Even something simple as vacuuming, washing a dish, things like that. So any little thing that you, even if you think it's insignificant, is important to record. Change in ability to do your job prior to stopping working. Does your current employer, if you're working now, are they having to adjust things on your job based on your diagnosis, your limitations? Are there no limitations being placed on you at work, or certain chairs having to be ordered because of your condition? Do you have to get a certain computer screen? Or have your hours been adjusted? It's important to note all of that. If you can get that information from your employer and file it, it will be important when you go to file, or if you go to file for disability. All that information is taken into consideration. Is your doctor supportive of you applying for disability? Is he or she willing to provide evidence relating to your symptoms and limitations and any necessary testing needed? Will the doctor provide a statement stating that they feel that you're no longer able to work? Keep in mind that if the doctor does do that alone is not enough for the Social Security Administration to declare you disabled. But if your doctor feels that you're no longer able to work and you have the additional medical information to support the deterioration and you being able to work, it's helpful. Necessary testing for pulmonary hypertension, is always important to remember that the gold standard in diagnosing is a right heart cath. So right heart cath test results are very important. Pulmonary function test, 6-minute walk test, all of those are really important. Even if you were diagnosed a long time ago and you're just now filing, if you have, or your current pulmonologist, or if you're seeing a cardiologist, if they have those information on file with your medical records, it's important to show that you have been diagnosed via those tests. Review your work history over the past 15 years, because they will ask for it. The application process consists of, and it can be completed online, the actual benefit application, the disability report that I mentioned. The SSI application cannot be done online. It's actually can be printed, or you can request it be mailed to you. They will ask for your financial information, so that's something you'll need to provide. Determine the onset date. The date that you and your doctor feel you became disabled is very important, because you're going to need to list that on the application. If someone is filing for you, if you have an authorized representative, that's going to become very important, because that's the date that you're saying you became disabled. Even if maybe you continue to try to work after that date, it's the date that you feel that you became disabled. Talk to your doctor, and he or she is in agreement. Collect all the relevant and supportive medical documentation prior to the application. You'll submit all of this to the Social Security Administration on your own, unless you have an authorized representative that will be submitting that information for you. If you do send it on your own, send that information priority or certified to ensure delivery, and make sure you have a receipt. Review your records and diary for tests completed, and place the information chronologically when completing the application. That's also very important. It shows that you've been dealing with this over a period of time. It can show the deterioration in which you could do one at once and can no longer do, which helps establish that you are disabled. Be thorough and concise. Spaces limited to provide an explanation of impairments, symptoms, and limitations. So you have to be concise. You can add additional pages, but being concise and thorough is very important. Identify why you should be found disabled under guidelines set forth by the Social Security Administration. To be clear about that, the listing under the disability evaluation for Social Security, there's a listing of impairments, also known as the Blue Book. And for pulmonary hypertension, it typically falls under the listing of A, and that's where you would, if you don't meet the listing, and you don't necessarily have to meet a listing to be found disabled, but if not, then you would have to meet the medical vocational guidelines or both. The medical vocational guidelines or grids explains your functional capacity. That takes into account your age, your educational level, and whether you're considered to be a skilled or semi-skilled worker. So all of that is taken into consideration. Complete and return all requests to the Social Security Administration in a timely manner. If they send forms to you that need to be completed and give you a time to send back, and you do not send back within that time frame, they may follow up with a letter stating that we submitted this to you. It needs to be sent back. But if you do not meet those deadlines, it may force them to close your case, and then you have to file all over again. So that could be detrimental. The process typically takes initially anywhere from 90 to 120 days, up to 8 months to get a response. So if you're in the middle of that and you don't turn back forms that have been requested, that whole time could possibly start all over again, and you don't want that. So definitely follow up with timely submissions. If you move in the middle of filing, you want to let them know right away. That can change things. If you change an address, all of that information is very important. Follow up to confirm receipt of application and supporting documentation. It's okay to call them to find out, did you get this? They'll give you a number. You'll be assigned a number. You'll get a letter. You'll often be assigned a worker. It's okay to follow up to find out if they've gotten the information that you sent. All of that is important to know. And you need to stay on top of it. It's your information and it's your life, and you need to stay on top of it. So it's quite okay to do that, and it's recommended. Ask your doctor to attend any consultative exam scheduled by the Social Security Administration. If you have a consultative exam scheduled by the Social Security Administration, ask your doctor to conduct the exam. Sometimes they will determine that you don't meet a listing, and that's when they'll send you to a doctor. You can ask your doctor to actually conduct the exam. You can request that. Sometimes that Social Security Administration determines that you will need to see a doctor they want you to see. But if they do, you can request your doctor attend. Follow up with the assigned disability examiner to ensure continued progress on your in a nutshell, you want to make sure you plan, that you prepare, that you are thorough, that you're concise, that you follow through. And as far as Caring Voice Coalition, how we can help, we do have a link that's attached here that you can go to, which will give you some guidance. As well, you could contact our toll-free number at 888-267-1440, and one of our specialists can discuss with you your eligibility.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Amy. Now we're going to hear from Charlotte McCabe, who, as I mentioned before, is a support group leader and has applied for disability herself. So Charlotte, it's all you now.
Okay, thanks, Daniela, and hi, everybody. I'm Charlotte McCabe, and I'm a support group leader out in Puyallup, Washington. And I also was probably one of the few people who applied for a Social Security disability and got it within 6 months. So I hear that's quite amazing. So one of the things I've done is to help PHA, excuse me, to help PH Association by giving them permission to use my application as an example to help people work through the process. First of all, I'm going to go to the next slide. And this is the beginning of the application, and I didn't do it online because I needed to have a face-to-face meeting at the Social Security Administration here in Puyallup to determine if I qualified under SSDI, if my work history was enough to qualify to receive SSDI. And so I filled out these forms by pencil, actually, or by pen, and I want to say if you don't type them, you should print them to make sure that the people who are reading them understand what you're telling them on the forms. I guess, first of all, they asked for a work history or medical and job worksheet, and you'll see that I put down my diagnoses, and then under heading D and E and then F and G, you'll see how I put C attached, because what I did was I made, this is hard to see, but I made a list of all of my physicians and their addresses and phone numbers and my record numbers, because they will ask for your record number at the physician's office, and you can get that information by calling the physician and asking for your record number. I listed all of those typewritten and made it an attachment. I also made attachments for medications, medical tests, and jobs. And this is my medication list. Actually, this is a medication list I made up for my husband, so if I'm not feeling well enough to get my own medicines, he knows what to get me and when to give it to me. And I just copied this and sent it to them as an attachment under medications. Under jobs, well, let's see, this is under tests. Not only did I have copies of the results of my tests, my diagnostic tests, but I also kept a diary like Jennifer was talking about so that I could write down the dates of the tests, where they were done, the doctor they were done for, and I primarily paid attention to the tests to diagnose my pulmonary hypertension. In other words, I sent them the results of my chest x-rays, my EKGs, my my echocardiograms, my right heart cath for sure, the CT scan of my lungs, my arterial blood gas, and my sleep study. And those were all diagnostic tests that were done to rule out the cause of my pulmonary hypertension. So since PH was the reason I was applying for disability, I focused on sending them the PH test results. Then in the work history area, 15 years of work history, well, luckily I was a medical professional, so I had a resume. And I just updated my resume and sent in my resume, and they actually accepted that. You get more in-depth with your work history because this is just the beginning of the application process. Then I had a face-to-face meeting with a worker at the Social Security Administration, and they do up a summary that they give you when they're finished. This worker was an interesting lady. She was more interested in telling me how much she hated living in Minnesota, which is where I grew up and where I'm from, than she was in listening to the information I was trying to give her and looking at the diagnostic tests and everything I brought in with me to give her for my application process. Before I left, they typed up this interview review for me to show that I was eligible for SSDI and that I did not require any SSI assistance. And I actually, because of how she was during the interview, I actually thought I'd better sit down and read this before I left the office. And it's a good thing I did because I found numerous mistakes. She typed out the wrong name for me in 2 different places. She gave the wrong date of the beginning of my disability. She gave the wrong date for the purchase of our home in Washington when we moved from Arizona to Washington, and a wrong description of the home. Anyway, there were lots of errors. And so I went back up to the counter and just said, look, I'm not going to sign this till she fixes these mistakes. And when they're fixed, give me a call and I'll come in and I'll get the next copy of it and review it again. And if it's right, then I'll sign it. So do not trust that they're going to listen to all you have to say and get it right the first time. They're human and they make mistakes too. So do read it over. Do take the time to see if everything they say is appropriate or correct, and don't sign it if it has mistakes. Request that the mistakes be fixed, and then sign it. And that is the first part of what you said then. Then you think you're all done, and you're not. They send you an application or a worksheet, history report. And this is a more in-depth worksheet about your work history than your 15-year work history that they used on the first process. This one gets more in-depth, so I would recommend that you think it's actually the last 4 jobs you've held, and what they want to know is what kinds of tasks you had to do in your jobs that you're no longer able to do because of pulmonary hypertension or because of your disability that's causing your pulmonary hypertension. So get specific when you talk about your jobs. Specific about what you do in your jobs. If you're doing any lifting, if you're doing any bending, any stretching during the day to perform your job. If you're a salesperson, you're on the floor, you're moving furniture around, state that you're moving furniture around. If you have to lift something, know how much it is. I was a nurse and a nurse practitioner. I lifted patients. My heaviest lifting weight was 350 pounds when I had to help people out of the chair and out of the bed. And I could no longer do that. I saw a lot of people in their homes. I had to kneel down on the floors. I had to bend over to examine them. And it was hard to kneel down and get back up again. And it was hard to lean over and stand up and not be dizzy and pass out. So those are the kinds of things to think about. And be specific only. Answer exactly what they ask and no more and no less. And like Jennifer said, be specific and be concise. And they ask you about your work history and your jobs and 4 of them and what they entailed, and they also ask you about a functional report. And Jennifer touched on that herself already when she talked about vacuuming and doing the dishes. You can also add making the bed, kneeling down to scrub out the tub, ladies, cleaning bathrooms, things that I know I can't do anymore, and I'm assuming most of you can't do anymore either. Those are the kinds of things they want to know about. So The last thing I want to say is that at the PHA website, there is a Social Security application assistance page, and on that page, there on the left side of that page, there is a Social Security Administration starter kit. And it's a kit to help you work through this process of filling out this application. And the first thing in that starter kit is the example of my application. Please feel free to look at it, use it as a guide, and I guess that's it. If you have any questions,
Okay, thanks so much,
I'm ready to go.
And Amy. And so for questions, if you have a question, you can use the raise hand function, and then to unmute yourself, press *7, and to remute yourself after you're done asking the question, press *6. Okay, so let's see. Looks like we have a question from Jane. Jane Northrup, you can unmute yourself.
Hello.
Hi, Jane.
Hey.
Hi, Jane.
Hi, Amy. I am calling because my daughter gets SSI, and Amy helped us get it. She turns 18 next month, and I just got the paperwork for reinstatement of that SSI, and I filled it all out, and I sent it back. I sent it back in the envelope they provided. That was no postage necessary. I didn't realize I had to send it priority or certified until just now. My question is, I had heard that reinstatement as an adult for SSI has a more stringent criteria. And I'm concerned that they will deny her SSI because she is turning an adult, and her health is not improved. She does fall under compassionate allowance, though, because she has Eisenmenger syndrome, which is one of their diseases, I guess. So I guess my question is, should I be Medicaid? She has Medicaid. That is the only form of insurance she has, because I don't have insurance and I can't provide it for her as her parent. And so my biggest concern at this moment is her losing her Medicaid. And
Jane, not to interrupt you, sweetie. I definitely think you should call us. I know we had previously talked about this, and when Nicole was going to be turning 18, so it's a totally different process. The parental income is not counted. It's still SSI, so she would still get Medicaid as long as she has SSI. She's already been found disabled, so I think the information that you've been given may be a little incorrect. I'm not Social Security, so I can't guarantee, but I think that the process will be a little simpler than you think. So please give us a call and allow us to assist you through that, because I know how important it is for you, not the income but for her insurance. And we would, for her specific case, would love to talk to you about it, because we love you both, and we want to make sure.
love you too.
We want to make sure things continue, and you know how much I care for her. So give us a call, because I think that you may have been given misinformation, and it should actually be a simpler process at this point. She has no work history to compare, so she doesn't, she has to meet the same listings that she met as a young person. So I think it's actually a little simpler than you're thinking. So give us a call.
Okay, I'll do that. Thank you so much.
Okay, dear.
Okay, it looks like Lisa Garnett had her hand raised. So Lisa, you can unmute by *7.
I also have a question. Like Jane, my daughter Branda just turned 18, and we had not filed for her as a minor because my husband and I have been able to continue working. So a number of people advised us not to file for her as a minor. My question is, now I did the online application for SSI and SSDI as they told me. I know that she doesn't qualify for SSDI because she has not worked, And in addition to her pH, she has some other issues. So she's going to be dependent on us for her life. But I have a diary of some of her issues, but I don't have, everything since day one for her. And when I did the SSI application, of course, on there they say list all your doctors. We'll contact them for the records. Should I go that route, or should I go through the trouble of contacting all 4 of her specialists and getting all the records and then taking everything to the office myself?
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
And as far as you're concerned, she's, as her being 18, even though she's dependent on you all, her being 18 and, of course, not having any work history, but being 18, she'll be able to file for SSI as an adult. So yours and your spouse's or her parent, both her parents' income should not count against her in the SSI application process. Now, I know you said you completed the SSDI and SSI applications online, but I know the SSI application isn't available online, so I'm a little concerned about that. Did you print it out and send it in?
Well, I did it online, and then I got basically a follow-up letter with the cover page and so forth. And we had legal guardianship of her, which was established in May. So I was assuming when I take everything to the office where we live, that I need to take a copy of the guardianship as well.
Okay. Was someone on the phone with you when you did it online, the application online, or is it something you just went online and did yourself?
I went just to SSA.gov and did it, and the first question they asked was if she had ever worked or not. And I said, no, she's never worked, and then it took me from there.
Okay.
But then after the initial one, then I got an email saying I needed to do the disability report, which I did that.
Yes, okay.
So I've done those 2 steps, but right after I did that is when the email came out about this. So I haven't gone to the office yet or called them to make an appointment because I wanted to hear what you all had to say.
Okay, definitely.
And would you mind? Yes, it does, but would you mind repeating the toll-free for Caring Voices, because I think I want to call and talk with somebody about some of her other issues, because I've been told that she should just fly right through.
Yes, definitely. Our toll-free number is 888-267-1440. You can just ask for one of our IEC case managers that handles disability, and one of our specialists will be able to assist you and answer your questions.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, so we had Diane Chung chatted a question for us, and her question is a really good question that I think a lot of PH patients often have, and her question is, where does PH fall under the disability listings? Because she was doing her application online, and she used the scroll down menu to pick what her condition was, but she didn't find PH. So Amy, would you be able to explain, because it's kind of confusing because there's no specific listing for PH for disability?
It's not typically where you can find the symptoms, because it is not a listing for pulmonary hypertension, but of course the disability evaluation is known as the Blue Book. The listing of impairments, as far as where you'll find the symptoms and related to pulmonary hypertension, is a listing of impairments A, and they fall typically where you're going to find them is under the 3.00 respiratory system, and so there you'll find a lot of the symptoms related to pulmonary hypertension will fall under that listing. But again, as I mentioned, I just want to reiterate, a lot of patients may not meet a listing, but they can still be found disabled, based on the residual functional capacity. So a lot of things go into it. If you meet the listing, your chances are stronger, but especially with pulmonary hypertension, you may not always find the listing, but definitely associate your symptoms with the listing, which again is the listing of impairments Part A, and under the respiratory system, which is Section 3.0.
Okay, great. And then We also had another participant chat in. Shauna is considering having an attorney file for her, and she was wondering if anyone has experience filing with an attorney instead of filing themselves. So if this is sent out to the whole group, if you have experience with one way or the other and you think you have some ideas about which would be better, feel free to unmute yourself with *7 and give your opinion. Amy, do you have any suggestions on whether you think it's better to go with an attorney or if it's,
I definitely wouldn't advise either way. I just will say, if you go through an attorney, most attorneys do charge a fee if you are approved for assistance. So if you do win that case, they will get a percentage of your, of the case, including, the back pay and everything from the time that they took on the case. So, a lot of people feel, have to go a significant amount of time without having income while they're proving their case. And so they put that burden on, of course, they reach out to an attorney because they don't have, a lot of times the help to even deal with all of the paperwork involved. So sometimes it becomes a necessity for some people and that they have no other choice. But other people feel, having to give up some of that income once it finally comes through, it's kind of hard to do. So you reach out to, if you don't want to seek out an attorney and have to deal with that percentage loss or paying them for their services, then you reach out to organizations like Caring Voice or other organizations that can help you at no charge, or authorized representatives, family members, friends, maybe that have worked in the medical field that can act on your behalf. There's an appointment of representative form that's filled out, and you can speak on behalf of the individual. So, but certainly if you feel that you want to seek an attorney, you can definitely do that. But again, they will take a fee in most cases.
We had a question from Anne, and she was wondering if we could talk a little bit about working after you've received SSDI, which is a really good question.
It is, and you can, Social Security has what they call a trial work period. If you do get declared disabled by Social Security and you go back to work, most people think, well, I can work and get disability if I only make so much money. That's true and untrue. They have a trial work period where if you think that you may be able to re-enter the workforce, this trial work period, there is a certain amount that you're allowed to make up to and still get your Social Security disability benefits. However, it is not meant to be long-term. It's only temporary. The goal of that trial work period is to see if you are able to re-enter the workforce. But it is not meant to be an ongoing thing. If you're disabled, then that means that you cannot work. But they do have that program in place that will allow you to try it out and see, hey, I'm feeling better, I'm on better medication, I want to go back here and give it a try, and you can make but so much money. So, but that trial work period is not meant to be permanent.
Great. Looks like Nora Hoffman's had a question for you, Amy. Do you have any advice if and when you receive a denial letter from SSA?
One of the things that you want to do if you do get denied Social Security benefits, one of the things that you want to do is file an appeal. Filing an appeal, you have a time frame to file an appeal, and when you get that denial, it's going to tell you the date that you have to file an appeal. If you don't file by that date, then that case, then you have to start a whole new application. That's important because say you do file an appeal and you win your case, then they go back to your initial application. But if you don't file an appeal within that time frame and you have to start a new application, you're proving your initial disability date, it won't necessarily go back to that initial date. So, but filing an appeal is I won't say it's a simple process, but what you do have to do is provide to the Social Security Administration new information that they didn't already have. So if you don't have anything new that you have already presented to them, the likelihood that you will get found disabled is slim, but it could be the way that you presented it. So it might be helpful to reach out to, again, look to an organization that assists with this process, such as Caring Voice, or to an attorney or an authorized representative who can help present your case better, because maybe it could have just been in the way that you presented it. But I would definitely recommend, if you know that you're disabled and you know that you cannot do the work that you are skilled to do, then you want to file that appeal in a timely manner.
Great. See, I think we have another question. Josephine was able to chat her question, and her question is that she applied for SSI recently with the help of Caring Voice Coalition, and she has a pension plan that she was not able to get due to her age. And she was wondering if this pension will count against her in her SSI application. She is 53 years old now, and she won't be able to actually receive the pension until the age of 55. So if she's applying to SSI now, will that pension count as part of her assets?
Sure, Danielle. And actually, I have one of my peers here, Raylene, Raylene is actually her case manager, so I want her to be able to answer Josephina's question.
Hi,
Okay.
Josie. It's Raylene. In your instance, the pension does not apply against you because we were only applying for disability. Because I knew that you did have the pension. If you have, if you're just applying for SSDI or disability insurance, your assets are not used during the determination. It's if you're applying for SSI that they will look at your assets, such as what you have in a pension fund or an IRA, bank accounts, property, and as far as what your family's income is.
Great, thanks. Does anyone else have more questions? Okay, if not, I'm going to actually turn it over to my supervisor, Catherine Kroner, who will talk a little bit about what PHA has been doing to help with this issue of PH not being listed under the Social Security Administration's listings.
Thanks, Daniela. First of all, I just want to say thanks to Charlotte and Amy. You guys have been amazing. I have sat in on a few of these calls, and I think that this is one of the best ones we've ever done. So I really appreciate you being here, and I hope that the 30-plus people that are out there listening have found it as informative as I have. And I just wanted to add my 2 cents because there was that question earlier about what to do if you couldn't find pulmonary hypertension in the Blue Book listings that SSA uses as their first screen to find conditions that are eligible for disability. And so of course we heard that even though having a specific listing in the Blue Book is a step that makes this process a little bit easier, just because pulmonary hypertension isn't listed specifically doesn't mean that you can't apply and be successful. Lots of people do. It just means that the SSA needs to go through a little bit of an extra step to learn more about your particular situation. That being said, PHA recognizes that having pulmonary hypertension as a listing would be a really valuable thing for the PH community, and so we've been talking with the Social Security Administration actually for a couple of years because the SSA, although they're wonderful, does move at the speed of bureaucracy, which is not very fast. And we, a little while ago, the SSA asked an outside organization to do an assessment of their pulmonary listings and make some recommendations about how they could improve and update the listings. And so we spoke with that outside organization, and one of the recommendations that that organization made to SSA was that they should include a specific pulmonary hypertension listing. Now we're still waiting on the SSA to make a final decision about that. But that is something that we're optimistic about and have really been working actively to try to move in the right direction. So I just wanted people to know that we're sort of aware of that complicating issue, and we are doing what we can to try to make this process as easy as possible for people.
Great. Thanks a bunch, Katie. So if anyone has any more questions, feel free to ask them now. If not, once again, thank you so much to Amy and Jennifer and everyone at the Caring Voice Coalition for contributing, and thanks a lot to Charlotte for taking your time and for volunteering to put your application up on the website, because I think that's going to be so helpful for a lot of our patients. And thanks to everyone who attended it. I think we had a really great webinar, and I hope you'll attend more in the future.